Here's an home office scene that we've all experienced in the last 365 days in one way or another. A warm welcome to the Randstad Award 2021. My name is Nadia Hansen, and in addition to my role as HR Manager and Employer Branding Specialist at Randstad Switzerland, I'm delighted to be guiding you through today's event. This event really revolves around one core question. Why does employer branding matter in times of crisis? We will explore this question in more depth in the next 60 minutes. So now, have your smartphones ready, sit back and enjoy the event. Enjoy your breakfast, Ariane.
Home office all week?
Yeah, another busy week at home, all week long. You know, everybody in the company is still calling the IT department because of technical issues. I really don't know when this will stop. It's been half an hour and I still haven't found a comfortable way to sit yet.
What about our table or your desk?
Yeah, I know, but I just can't see it anymore.
Look, the whole world is in a similar situation.
No, not everyone. Look at Brian. He in his job is still able to go to work every day.
Bye guys, see you later.
Bye, Brian.
And he leaves the house regularly.
Yeah, I know. But most of the people I know are working from home. I think everybody who is able to do home office should do home office. I'm wondering how many can actually do it.
So boys, let's go. Wash your hands. Well, you might be right. Not everyone is in the same situation as we are. But we can't change it. So I need to go. I need to prepare my 9 o'clock call.
Come on, babe. It's only 8:15. Don't you have enough time?
Well, it's the international marketing meeting, so I need to prepare a little bit. Oh, and look at me. At least today. I need to take a shower and I need to get dressed.
Well, I'm happy when at least some of my teammates show up. Since short-time work started, I sometimes have the feeling I'm the only one still working. And nobody even cares. Why am I still doing this?
Phil? Fine, thank you. How are you? No, I'm still working from home. But I'll be on production site later on. Yes, Steve and Marcus will show me the new product line, which is in production right now, obviously. Yes, can we meet afterwards? Sure, at 3 p.m. is fine. Yes. No, exciting. Tell me more about it.
Hi, Natalie. I hope you're doing fine. How was a job interview for your sales position yesterday? You're still on mute.
Oh, hang on a second. I have to step outside.
Okay, happy to hear that the interview went well. He should be joining the call in a few seconds. Yeah, here we are. Mr. Turel, good morning. Happy to meet you for this second job interview. Mr. Turel, during our last interview, we didn't have the chance to talk about your expectations towards us as your employer. But today, for me, it's super important to know that from you.
That's crazy. 5 years ago today, I started my job at the bank. How time flies, I didn't even realize.
Wow, I'm super impressed how you do that. Like, how did you manage to stay motivated all these years? Like, especially now, you're at home all day, all night, but for what?
What do you mean for what? I love my job. I have such a great team. I just got a promotion and they invest a lot in me.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't even share your last shirt if your company would need it. I wouldn't even share my own screen. Like, I just can't relate.
Honestly, a lot has changed during this crisis. I never thought about working from home almost every day. That was a huge change. But the days I spent on the production side are almost as normal as before. Okay, wearing a mask is still new, but I got used to it.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind that for most of your employees, home office is not even a thing, as their work cannot be done from home.
Yep. For me personally, I think we were guided into this home office mode quite well. We were updated on all changes by weekly town hall meetings. The IT setup is well organized. I got my laptop from the company, access to all my files and data and so on.
Wow, that's really amazing to hear you say that. No wonder they are the most attractive employer.
Those are some really interesting questions to which the answers will be revealed throughout the course of the event. But of course, we got a lot more in store for you today, so bear with me. If you have any questions during the event or if you want to have a conversation, please use the QR code on the screen. We will be there to respond to your answers and to keep the conversation going. Today's event is really going to be insightful and entertaining, with great guests and a lot of takeaways on our free employer brand research study. And of course, we're going to reveal who made it to the top of the most attractive employers in Switzerland of this year. But before I spoil too much, let me introduce you to the CEO of Randstad Switzerland, Taco de Vries. Hi, Taco.
Hi, Nadia. Thank you. Thank you. Please let me first address a warm welcome to our guests, our viewers today in this event, our clients, our external guests, but also our internal colleagues. I'm so happy that you made it and reserved a place in your agenda, in your busy agenda, I guess, with a lot of virtual meetings. I hope we can provide an interesting program. I hope it will be entertaining, and I hope you're enjoying it. Nadia, I'm so excited that we are here today again to reveal the winner. I missed it really. We're doing now for 8 years the Randstad survey, but last year, you know, we had to cancel it because of COVID. And 12 months later, we're still in a COVID situation, but we adapted. And I'm so happy that today, with the technology and the digitalization, we're capable of revealing the winner. But still, I have a lot of warm thoughts if I think about the event last year, 2 years ago, in the Aura, live.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree, Taco. I also miss it, the energy of personal interaction. But as you said, technology brought a lot of advantages. Looking at the event today, coming in a completely different format and now also being accessible to a wider audience that are able to watch the event from the comfort of their own homes or their workplace.
Yes, yes. No, that's so good. And of course, digitalization is good, but the connection and the interaction and the personal contact is something we also miss. Huh?
Yeah, but we saw also a great development on that side, looking at the resilience and the capacity of people and organizations to really transform this challenge into opportunities and possibilities. I'm sorry.
I fully agree. No. What I realized is that digitalization, we became used to it, less stressful. We're adapted also personally to that world.
Yeah, and also what we saw in the conversations, they really come with a different quality, you know, allowing humanness and transparency and also vulnerability to have a space.
Exactly.
To have topics to talk about subjects such as domestic situations and also mental health, for example.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. Yes.
So it's been an interesting ride, I have to say. Despite the heaviness and the challenges of the past couple of months, we also see that people have transformed, adapted with the mindset, and really showed us of what we're made of.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Yes.
Great.
I guess we have now to look
Yes, we have had an active community here with the names of the most attractive employer. So I'm really curious to see what our audience thinks who the most attractive employer of this year could be. So now let's have a look at our beautiful word cloud here.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. And well, actually wondering, Taco, if the winner of this year's award is among those names.
Well, he probably is. We see the usual suspects, but I'm personally very curious, Nadia, if the whole COVID impact would have an impact on the ranking of our Randstad employer branding research list. I'm very curious.
Mm-hmm. But do you have an idea of who the winner of this year really is?
I do have it. Yes, yes.
Okay.
But I cannot reveal it.
All right, good. So then let's have a look at today's agenda with a highly interesting topic which perfectly fits into our omnipresent reality. Does employer branding matter in times of crisis? Taco, do you think it matters?
It matters more than ever, Nadia, according to me. The whole COVID situation needs companies to focus on different topics, and if they have done good things, they need to be vocal about it. Employer branding or perceived attractiveness is important to attract talents. And although COVID has changed a little bit the labor market, we still see again coming the topic of talent scarcity. So more than ever, I think that employer branding is important.
Yeah, we will elaborate more on that subject, of course. But for now, thank you very much, Taco, for starting the event with me.
You're welcome.
And we'll certainly go into discussion later during the event.
Yes.
So let's talk about statistics. The Randstad Employer Brand Research Study is an independently conducted study which took place in January and February this year with over 4,000 respondents. Having said that, you cannot apply or buy into the study. It's only the 150 companies in Switzerland with a certain amount of employees based in Switzerland that are able to partake. I have Olivier Landerer here with me today, who's been part of the research study since the beginning. And he will dive deeper into the findings of this year's report with us. Hi, Oli.
Hi, Nadia. It's really great to be here and excited to share some of the insights that we have in the study.
It's lovely to have you. I'm really intrigued.
Great. So when we take a look at it, I'm intrigued as well. I cannot lie, really, that what we found with our study is that it has enabled us to get some more pinpoints, particularly because we've been running around in this very challenging year, both ourselves as a company, but also we know our clients and other companies in the industry, and trying to find the pertinent questions as to what to focus on for employer branding, because the world has been turned upside down. Yeah, and now we have to find those elements. So what I've done is I've taken looked at three insights, which I think is quite useful for everyone, and just to dig a little bit deeper into those particular questions. So I'm just going to go to the question one that we have, is really the feeling, the feeling of employees towards employers during the pandemic. And really, when we take a look at this, we do have some very interesting numbers. So if we take a look at the first part, which is really working from home, we see that 62% of people were actually working from home fully. That's a lot of people.
Oh, yes.
And that's a lot of change as well. And 49% of employees were actually working either part-time, remotely as well. So there was a big shift, and we do see that. And that changed a lot in the COVID situation. As the pandemic rose, more and more people started going into remote offices, and that became also a life-changing experience for people. I know it's a big adjustment also for companies. What we did see, and especially ourselves as well as an organization, we saw that it was a big challenge to move everything from one day to the next. But I have to say, everybody faced this challenge head on. And I was really surprised at the solidarity and how everything was brought together. So really impressed by a lot of companies and how they really made it happen.
No, absolutely. And when we look at all the initiatives that the companies have really pulled off, when we looked at engagement initiatives, for example, to keep people together even while they are distanced at home, for example, all the schedules and timetables, the yoga class during lunch or the collective kitchen activity, and not to forget the crazy Christmas parties that were taking place last year. So I think the companies also really went above and beyond for their employees.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also one of the biggest things was the health and safety of employees, making sure they were safe during this whole period. So totally agree with you on that front. Also, we can take a look at the loyalty side as well. And that also is something that was interesting to see. So what we did see was that in our study, 20% of all employees plan to change their employers in the next 6 months. If we take a look at previous years, obviously there were similar sort of numbers around. So we're not suggesting that it is COVID related. It's just people moving and changing their expectations and moving within organizations. But what was interesting was that it was between the ages of 18 and 24 that are looking at that. That's the largest number. And then if we then take a look at last year, the tail end, 6 months of last year, we see that 11% of people actually changed their jobs. So that is something also to take into account. So things were moving, even though there was COVID.
Yeah, and it's just a guess, I can only speculate here, but we also see a lot of people, embarking on a path of self-knowledge, redefining parameters for their lives to live an even more meaningful and purposeful life. And then also thinking, is this the right company for me? Can I identify with the culture and the treatment by the organization? So I think that this could also be, or could have been, a trigger for people considering a change.
Absolutely. And also we see by the numbers as well that those people that were affected by COVID during this period, actually 29% of them are intending or looking to change as well. So that's also an interesting statistic to bring. There was also another part of our study, which was the feeling towards their employers as a whole, and the loyalty, really the loyalty factor. And what we do see is that you see that 8% actually felt less loyal. So there's an element of interaction there between what was going on. And maybe it's also the way that leadership and other type of organizations are actually looking after their staff. Something really to bear in mind when you have, particularly for your employer branding, moving from now and into the future. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And 10% obviously between the ages of 25 and 34. So that is also something to consider. That age group typically is also one that, has come out of school and now are looking, then got their first jobs and then are looking to move on. So something to take into consideration. Great. Now let's move on to the second question. So the question is drivers. Yeah. Big question here.
Yeah.
And I have to reveal that we did a poll in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that 24% of you actually got it right.
All right.
Yeah. So let me tell you, number one driver is pleasant working atmosphere. The second driver is salary and benefits. And the third driver is job security, which is it's a little bit of a shift from the previous years. Previous years, we saw economic boom, things were running. So salary and benefits was a top because people, there was lots of jobs out there. People were looking to move, career progression and all these different things. But I think the pandemic obviously had an impact and people switched it from previous years from the pleasant working atmosphere. So I was 8 years ago, as you rightly mentioned. I feel a bit old here now, but definitely something. And it was pleasant working atmosphere for the very first year. And then it switched to salary and benefits. So that's something that's quite an interesting shift. And also, pleasant working atmosphere, considering that a lot of people are working from home.
Yeah, I think, leaders will really be in the spotlight here because they are basically responsible somehow to create an environment for their employees based on trust, connection, to engage and motivate their people, inspire them while leading from afar. So how do you then establish such an environment? I think this is really going to be a hot topic for companies on, do we even have the right leaders to navigate our teams into the future? So I think this is also something that companies really need to bear in mind looking at their leadership when it's about the atmosphere at work.
Absolutely, and I think also it's not an easy task either. Huh?
Yes.
Bearing in mind that some of us that are leaders also struggle sometimes with some of these topics because you're thrown into it, especially during COVID times.
Yeah.
The other aspect that we looked at was also the work-life balance between blue collar and white collar. And so what you do see is that 68% of white collar workers and 54% of blue collar workers see the challenging of blending the work-home life balance. And I think that is something that really is strategic nowadays and something that we need to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything comes in balance, you know. Whatever comes forced is something that people tend to reject, and if you get to choose, you're much more engaged. You're much more into it, basically. So yeah, also when we're looking at home office, how can it be in the future? It should be, or the ideal can be, a mix of both, basically, office and home office.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that balance is also something which people have to get used to as well. What we also see is that, you know, it can be also reflected in different generations as well.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind that 44% of employees in Switzerland are attracted by the possibility of working remotely, it's something that is quite specific and quite up there in the drivers. So what we do see is the possibility of working remotely ranges from 35% for Generation Z, 45% for millennials. We've got 45% also for the Generation X and 41% for boomers.
Interesting result.
Interesting result. And the interesting part of it is that I can also relate to this to a degree, is that, you know, I've got a son who's 26 years old, and you just see that obviously for them it's easy, yeah, to work from anywhere, to do anything from anywhere, and that has a pertinence. Whereas, you know, somebody like me who needs my structure and needs my environment, you know, and having to go to work, it's different, and we have to think differently, I think, for all these different generations and how they are perceiving work and how they're perceiving to come into the workforce.
Absolutely. No, I think there you have to take all perspectives somehow into consideration to make it work. I also know that we know that there is not a one-fits-all solution, but it's certainly a conversation that has to be taken up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also, according to the study, we had women and the higher educated who really put this as the high priority in terms of drivers, overall drivers. Also, what I do see is that we have all had to change our mindset, but I think the fact of being able to work from home, the fact that our children, were also not able to go to school, it enabled people to have the flexibility. So I think, you know, great stuff that companies supported and really drove that, which is nice. So I think companies no longer sometimes are looking at office space, or some are not looking at office space or as much office space now, because remote working is possible. Things can get done, and productivity is still there. So I do think I think there's always pros and cons with these, but definitely something that's interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting development, I have to admit. You know, and it also is very much entangled with self-discipline and self-responsibility as well. Not everybody is made to work from home or feels less comfortable being at home and having the right setup. So yeah, it's very different, and also there again, the different perspectives matter.
Yeah, exactly. And now let's get to the third question. I think this is one of the most important. Is, you know, how can companies support us, in this time, and how can they support us in working from home, effectively? So what we see is that 69% of women versus 52% of men believe that companies should offer flexible working hours. What do you think about that, Nadia?
Well, we have seen that also when we all had to go into home office from one day to the other, and, you know, adjusting our schedule, but also people going earlier or later to work to avoid the commuting, for example. And we did see that it worked. Sometimes we don't know the things when we haven't tried them out, and I think here this is a great proof that those things are possible. So also to what you just mentioned before, work-life balance, to really allow the women, for example, to bring their kids to school and to not be stressed out and to be well set to start the day. I think that also this is a positive development due to the pandemic.
Absolutely, totally agree. And also I would say that it probably depends really on the type of work that people are doing.
Yes.
We do have situations where obviously people are working in a production type environment. We have a lot of clients that were in there, and effectively people are working shifts. So therefore flexible working times are not necessarily key to those particular workers. But nonetheless, something to think about, and definitely something that should be important for us all.
Yeah.
Perfect. What we also saw was that, 57% of respondents also with higher education and 49% with lower level education believe that companies should offer financial support as well. Yeah. And that is something that for ergonomic equipment, which I think is something that is quite a pertinent question today.
Yeah, but speaking to other companies as well, I think that there already has been a lot going on. You know, companies that have given vouchers to their employees to set themselves up at home to work more ergonomically. So I think that there is already a lot of initiative from companies. But certainly, if that's not the case yet, something organizations can have a look into.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, I think one of the different things is the different categories where we see a potential and believe that financial support for home utilities should be offered. Yeah. And what we do see here is that we range from 39% for the ages between 18 and 24 up to 56% for the ages of 55 to 64 years old. So that's something that is quite interesting, and that shift. And again, I can also relate to home utilities and being offered things, you know. Myself and those that know me, obviously I play rugby, and sometimes I get quite broken, so I need a comfortable chair to be able to sit at in the office, and you know, and also have the support around me to be able to do my job effectively.
No, not just you, Ollie, believe me.
No, that's great. So I've shared the 3 insights with you, and I think that those insights are just the tip of the iceberg of our study. I thought that they would be relevant for you. This study also has the opportunity to give you much more information around the demographics, so you can split everything by age, by gender, by location, by education. And effectively, this can really help you to bring you onto your journey of employer branding in a challenging time, but exciting time that we have today. So I'm really interested, Nadia, in knowing who the most attractive employer is in Switzerland.
Yeah, we are about to find out, Ollie. But first, thank you very much for the conversation. It was really insightful. And let's see who the winner of the award this year is going to be. Thank you. So we've all been waiting very patiently, and I think it's about time to have a look at the ranking. And we're going to have a look at place 20 till 6. We will not do it the ordinary way. We will have 2 very talented artists, Semea and Max, poetry slammer and storyteller, who are going to share places 20 till 6 in their very beautiful way of the spoken word.
The world has been shaken. Awaken at breakfast with bacon and egg. It felt like running and breaking a leg. The world has been turned upside down. For most of us, everything seemed upright until now. In times like these, we search for a key. To happiness, abundance, stability. I feel I need to find out, who could I be?
Well, then let's Google it. How to live your purpose. Firmenich, they say. It's a good place to live your purpose. The world of scent and spice. Well, that sounds nice. Maybe they have a vacant job for a fragrance agent.
Sounds fantastic, but what if I am more of a visible type?
So you mean you're searching for clarity? Because I've been searching for clarity for a while. Something you can see or touch at the end of the day.
End of the day is a good cue. Sometimes I just feel like I am barely getting through the days. Killing time, it's basically a crime to just get by. Something I want to do until the end of life. My time on earth is ticking. And I need to find my passion, that real satisfaction that doesn't feel like working. That keeps my world turning when everything's burning. My time on earth is ticking and I don't want to kill time. I need to find a purpose. Will I ever find mine?
Well, maybe you just need a little patience. You know, sometimes you have to unpack different layers and secrets until you get to the very sweet core of it, the sweet spot in life.
and then I find my sweet spot, and then what? That won't work out, my friend. The world still turns around money in the end. No?
Money. Other people take care of this. Stop hesitating. And stop spoiling the story, because there are more bangs coming up in this award glory.
You are right. Let's keep on track. Tracks and trails. Wow, and who's gonna take care of this?
Liebe Mobiliar. Life happens. Thanks for taking care of it when we lose track. Thanks for being there for us. It's good to have someone to trust. Closeness. Being close is nice, but going far, that's the real spice in life. It's about going on an adventure. It's about discovery. It's about growth. We all have that inner compass to guide us through the jungle of life. It's going out on the sea, like Columbus. It's finding new shores. Or airports?
Airports? Shores? Sure, but also chores. I have been a Migros child all my life, and maybe that's where I could find true meaning, believing in a bright and gleaming future, sustainability through eating and repeating the right things, chores and habits.
Such as drinking coffee? That's the one thing that keeps my fire burning from within. Hot, freshly brewed coffee. What else? Let's have a break. This feels just like flying. Speaking of flying, I would be lying to say that it could not be a passion. I mean, up in the sky, say goodbye to your sorrows.
Look, I knew this was going to happen. You know what? I could join Swiss Re. They say they help predicting and preventing risks, and I definitely predicted that one.
So we can bank on them?
Yes, it's about earning and building. It's about working and winning. It's about working and not losing. It's about searching and improving. It's about being safe in unsafe times. We need to keep moving. It's a journey you go on together.
In times of insecurity, it's about learning to grow.
It's about holding it together in times of being alone.
It's a journey.
We go on together.
A ride to take.
A passion to find.
An impact to make.
A time to shine. To stay on track when the world's been shaken.
Wow, what an impressive performance. Thank you, Samea and Max, for revealing place 20 till 6. Taco, what do you think about the rankings?
Well, it is surprising, Nadja. I must say, the top 20 as such, we saw the names we know. But if you look at the top 10, so number 10 till number 6, we saw completely new names. Swiss Re, Suva. And I don't know if you noticed, but SBB, they came from place 18 and now they are number 6. Great.
Yeah, really a great jump in the ranking, but not just them. We've seen a lot of improvements on the rankings, and as you already said, a lot of newcomers.
Yes.
So I will talk to you later, Taco, to reveal the most attractive employer in Switzerland. And thank you very much for your opinion on the 20 till 6 places.
Yes.
So I think it's time to get some expert knowledge in. And we have invited Pim de Morree from Corporate Levels, who will share his perspective on the subject matter of employer branding with us. Hello, Pim. It's lovely to have you here this afternoon.
Hi, Nadja. Good to be here.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Unfortunately, far away from you guys, but still happy to be able to join virtually.
Great. So first things first, Pim, who are you and why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so my name is Pim de Morree and I'm one of the co-founders of a company called Corporate Rebels. And we set up the company 5 years ago in order to make work more fun, which is our mission. So my co-founder Joost and myself, we came from engineering backgrounds and started to work for companies that were doing the exact thing that we had studied for and that we enjoyed doing. And we worked there for about 3 years. And during those 3 years, we got completely fed up with the way that these big companies were structured. So we were getting sick of the hierarchy, the lack of entrepreneurship. There was no freedom. There were lots of rules and bureaucracy and policies in place. A lot of things that weren't really motivating for us. So while we liked the work itself, we didn't like the work environment and the way of working of the companies that we worked for. So we got together and we thought of how to solve this problem. How can we actually create workplaces or create work that we truly love and where we truly want to make an impact? And we couldn't really picture what an organization like that could look like. So we decided to quit our jobs, start this company, Corporate Rebels, and started to search and research organizations around the world to understand how to make work more fun. So we made a list of more than 100 pioneering organizations around the world that have done away with hierarchy, that have been able to give people lots of freedom, lots of autonomy, in order to create a workplace where people truly love to work. And over the past 5 years, we've been researching these companies and we share everything that we learn on our blog. And we help companies to kind of overhaul their traditional structures to truly create workplaces where people love to be.
Really interesting. And throughout your research, how the various companies approach employer branding, has there been one particular thing, one ingredient that made the company successful?
Yeah. So I think there is like a lot of different things that organizations can do in order to attract talent, motivate talent. But I think there's one thing that is kind of underlying all of this. If you look at employer branding and creating a truly great workplace, it's about listening to employees. And this might sound super common sense, but unfortunately, it's a thing not many companies do. So truly listening to what it is that employees need, and then creating a workplace around those needs. And I think we can see the same thing now happening also with remote work. Before the pandemic, a lot of people said this was impossible to do. Their companies would come to a stop, productivity would decline rapidly, and they had all kinds of arguments in place why remote work could never work for that specific company. And now, 14 months or 15 months into the pandemic, a lot of organizations figured out that it's perfectly possible to work remotely with a lot of people working at home in totally imperfect working conditions at the moment. And still they're able to be productive and sometimes even more productive than they were. When now going back to the office, I think it's going to be super important to truly listen to what it is that people need. And you talked about this before as well. Like how can we create a workplace that's based on flexibility, where we can truly listen to what it is that specific individuals need, and then give them the opportunity to create a workplace around it. And from the companies that we've been visiting over the years that have been truly the most inspiring are actually those companies that constantly have a dialogue with their employees to understand what it is that they can do better and how they can actually craft this organization around the needs of its people.
Very, very interesting, Pim. Did you encounter any cultural differences?
Yeah, so there are differences if you look at the application of how to work differently. So we've researched companies that, for example, don't have any managers in place. We've looked at companies where people have complete freedom to determine their own working hours or their working location. And some of them have been doing this for decades already. So the application of what it is that people or organizations do individually might be very different. And it might be harder, for example, in China to distribute decision-making to the front line. Well, it might be a lot easier here in the Netherlands where there's already more intrinsic equality among people. So, but if you look at beyond the application, if you look beyond the practices, then what people want in the workplace always come down to the same things. And research has shown this already for decades. People want purpose or meaning at work. They want autonomy, so the freedom to make their own decisions. And they want mastery or personal development to continuously become better at what they do. And this is everywhere the same. Whether you look at Latin America, Africa, Asia, or Europe, it's the same everywhere. So organizations just need to find ways to actually give people the opportunity to tap into these drivers of motivation.
And what would you say, why is employer branding so important during times of crisis?
Because I think a lot of people tend to forget that crises, of course, are tough. But what people tend to forget is that there's a huge opportunity in crises as well. The moment of a crisis or right after a crisis is also a moment of huge opportunities. And companies now, over the past 14 months, have been able to, or have been forced to change their ways of working. There's two ways of what they can do now. They can simply go back to the office as they were working already beforehand, or they can now use this moment, use this crisis to completely redefine their way of working and better listen to what it is that employees actually need. So there's two paths you can take right now. And it's up to companies to make a very important decision on what to do next. And that's why I think it's important to look at the opportunities also in a crisis like this for companies to become better after the crisis than they went into the crisis beforehand.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of mistakes do companies tend to do during times like these?
Well, I think we wrote a couple of interesting posts on this. In a time of crisis, a lot of companies, also individuals, they reveal their character. So companies that are really trustworthy and truly believe that their people are responsible adults that can perfectly make their own decisions, that don't need a lot of control mechanisms in place. We've seen that these companies actually flourish during a crisis like this. On the other hand, you see that companies that would like to have a feeling of control over their people, that are kind of anxious that people are now working at home, so they can't really check whether they are working behind their desk. These companies actually went down the path of more control, more oversight, sometimes even spying on their people to figure out if they were actually doing their work or not. So a crisis like this also reveals character. And I think a big mistake that a lot of companies made is that they thought they could just take the workplace they had before the pandemic and keep the very same thing and bring that then into this new environment that we're currently working in. That doesn't work. Companies really need to look for alternative and new ways of working to implement.
Mm-hmm. And to boil that down now, what are specific actions that company could take right now?
Well, let's simply look at remote work. I think, once again, the underlying thing should be listen to employees. It's truly important to now look at it, at the amount of people that you have in your company and listen to them to understand what do you need once the pandemic is over? How can we create the best possible work experience for you? And you might get very different answers, but listen to those different answers and then find a way to accommodate these different needs in the workplace. When it comes to remote work, some people would love to go back into the office for 5 days a week. Others might maybe want to be in the office just for 1 day a week. And find a way to make both of them work. Don't try to once again go back into this one-size-fits-all solution that you talked about before as well, where you maybe force people to be in the office 3 days a week and 2 days a week working from home. So get rid of the idea that we have to find fixed solutions for everyone and instead listen to the needs of specific people in the organization and try to cater to those individual needs.
Mm-hmm. And in your perspective, Pim, what's the future of employer branding?
Well, I think there's a lot going to change. You already saw a lot of newcomers, I think, in the top 6 to 20. I think what is important is that it becomes much more transparent now and in the future what it's actually like to work for a specific company. With all kinds of tools on the internet where you can see how much people make, how what their salaries are, what kind of a culture there is inside an organization, how much decision-making power you have, how much freedom you have. All of this becomes more and more transparent to the outside world. So I think it becomes much more important for companies to be as authentic as they can with their employer branding. If it's just a nice story in advertisements and in cool-looking videos, but if the inside is actually not the image that they try to put out there into the real world, that's going to backfire to them. So it's important to be authentic as possible to truly create a great workplace so that your employees will become ambassadors for your organization. And then, and I'm 100% sure about it, you don't need fancy advertisements to create a strong employer branding, but instead you just have your people that will be the ambassadors for your organization.
Really, really interesting. Thank you. Pim, before we take this conversation further, let's have a look who Switzerland voted into the top 5 of the most attractive employer in Switzerland.
Great.
Okay, so wow, that's a really surprising result. We can see here Patek Philippe. They won the award last year, still in the top 5, and also Swiss. They have also been in the top 3 last year. So looking at the results, I'm really surprised. So why isn't there any major change, considering that the travel industry especially has been struggling a lot during the pandemic?
Yeah, indeed, it's very interesting to see these winners, and I think one important element is what you've also been discussing before already, is the loyalty towards certain employers. I think that it takes also some time, more than just 14 months of a pandemic, to really make big shifts in how employers are seen by people. So I think we will see bigger changes over the course of the next few years. You see already a lot of newcomers now in this 6th to 20th position. I think that will continue, and more newcomers will also enter the top 5. And you maybe see already some changes happening here and there. But I think it will take longer to really see big effects of a pandemic like this. And as I mentioned already before, it will also become highly important for companies to adapt properly to a crisis like this. And I think the next couple of years, those figures will differ based on how companies handle currently the crisis, but also in the months and years going forward.
And is there something else that you could say about the watch industry, for example?
Yeah, so specifically on the watch industry, I think it's one of those more traditional sectors that might be very appealing to people. It has a big appeal. It has these high status products, and I think it is similar for example, the airline industry as well, where you see a lot of people still have a very positive feeling towards working for such organizations. There's a lot of status going out of these companies that I think is attractive, and that's something that's not going to change overnight. However, I do think it will be important for companies like these as well to not just be happy with their position at the moment, but really be conscious about the fact that a lot of changes might be happening over the course of the next months and years. And it also they, as maybe the more traditional positively seen employers, also need to step up and also need to be able to handle changes like these and crises like these and turn them into opportunity for themselves as well.
Mm-hmm. And what about businesses, for example, that have been strengthened during the pandemic, such as online retailers?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see as well. And I think this is even more challenging for them. They've seen big changes also in the past year. Maybe not as negative as some other companies, but very positively. They had to attract new people, grow very quickly. And a challenge that we've seen in our research also, when companies go through a period of such rapid growth and lots of success, it's going to be really challenging to keep that culture alive that is so important for the people that work there. So to become an even more attractive employer for these companies, it's vitally important to not just grow, especially not just for the sake of growth, but find a way to keep that culture that they had before alive and strengthen that. Because a lot of companies, when they grow very quickly, In our research, we've seen that they kind of lose what they were good at. So they kind of lose their most interesting and attractive assets simply because they want to continuously grow and grow and grow. So for them to keep this culture alive, that really gives this feeling of an employer at the beginning of a great culture, that's going to be the main challenge for them.
So, and is this the answer why employer branding is particularly important during times of crisis?
Yeah, as I mentioned already, it's what I think is so important, and a lot of companies tend to forget this, that this is not just a very challenging time. It's also a time with huge amounts of opportunity. And this is not just something that in the sector of employer branding is significant. Even completely different fields, for example, investing. Some of the most interesting times to invest are during a crisis or right after a crisis. And then there are huge amounts of opportunities to grasp. For companies to have a strong employer brand, it's going to be even more important for them in attracting the right talent, retaining the right talent, motivating people, giving them the opportunity to follow their passions and keep working inside the company. I think that's going to be vital. And that's also why it is important to focus on employer branding right now as we come out of this crisis.
Well, thank you very much for your valuable insights, Tim. It's been really, really nice listening to your experiences and into your perspective as well. So thank you very much for being with us this afternoon.
Thanks a lot for having me.
So now it's time to have a look at the winner, the top 5, and I welcome back Taco to help me find out who made it to the top of the most attractive employer in Switzerland.
Yes, Nadia, finally we will know it. The top 5, the top 3, and the winner. Yes. I'm so curious.
Me too, and honestly, I'm the most impatient person on the planet, so let's just start with place number 5.
Looking forward.
International Airlines. Congratulations.
Wow, congratulations to Swiss.
What a performance, considering that they've been through probably most of their challenging years. Very, very well done, Swiss International Airlines. Fabulous. Honestly, Taco, let's move straight on.
Yeah. We can't wait. Let's go for number 4.
Number 4. Here we go.
Rolex. Wow, also very impressive. A sustainable position in the top 5 over the years and also this year. Curious how they do it.
Okay. So honestly, Taco, that leaves us with the top 3 of the most attractive employer this year.
Yes.
And we are going to have the top 3 in a live call with us today.
Oh, really? Exciting.
So let's welcome them. It's going to be Lindt Sprüngli, Flughafen Zürich AG, and Patek Philippe. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Claudia. Good to have you with us.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Again, top 3 position. How does that make you feel?
It makes me really feel exciting, and I'm very curious what you're going to reveal within the next minute, I would say.
Yeah. We need to wait for a few seconds, though.
Fabulous.
I will.
So, Bruno, first, congratulations to be in the top 3. Last year, you've been 4th. Now you're in the top 3. Considering the challenges of this year, how do you feel about this?
I feel very, very happy and proud to be here. Top 3, but now this is very important for me. The Randstad Award, as I made, it's an important award. We are very interested in what our final position will be.
We are too. We are too.
We have a small challenge with the noise, but we get there. And Jérôme, also very happy to have you with us. What is your secret ingredient as Patek?
So actually the secret is that Patek Philippe has remained true to its quest of perfection since it was founded. And our employees are the best ambassadors of our values. And we are really proud to be on the top 3 again for New Year.
Fabulous performance. So now let's not wait any longer and have a look who the most attractive employer 2021 is.
Number 3. Hey.
Flughafen Zürich AG, congratulations to the most attractive employer in Switzerland. What a performance, unbelievable. Also a great congratulations, Lindt Sprüngli and Patek Philippe. So, Bruno, you are the most attractive employer in Switzerland. Oh my God! How do you feel now?
Yeah, absolutely great. Completely happy, and of course proud for our employees, proud for the company, our management. It's an absolute feeling. When I see all the names we have behind us, it's incredible. Absolutely happy. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to everybody.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you very much also for being on the show this afternoon. And yeah, we're looking forward to see Zürich Flughafen AG shining as the most attractive employer 2021. Thank you.
Yeah. Actually, we are in a crisis. Our industry is affected by Corona. And this is our second crisis after the last 20 years. And this is a special honor for us to be top number 1 in this crisis. I think this is a result of good management of this crisis, and of course, teamwork and team performance from all partners at the Zurich Airport, and good performance of our employees and management. I'm absolutely happy.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, my dear audience, my dear guests, I think that Bruno wanted to say that he was extremely proud of what the employees contributed to this number 1 position. Unfortunately, a little bit a technical issue, but I'm sure we will pass on that message later. This is also the end of our event today. I hope you liked it. We had a bit of a content, we had a bit of an explaining of what the survey was all about. I must say that I took a couple of remarks from Pim about a crisis revealing the real character of a company, and that you should listen actually to employees. Valuable insights he gave us. I hope again that you enjoyed it. I hope that also next year, we will be having an event live with part of digitalization. And I'm really, really looking forward to meeting you in person in the next 12 months or anytime soon. Nadia, you were today in a completely different role, and I'm so happy that we decided to ask you for doing that. You did really a great job.
Thank you.
A big thanks to you, and well done.
Thank you. So, download the Randstad Employer Brand Research Study now and reach out to one of our Randstad representatives. We are more than happy to have a conversation with you and to dive deeper into your survey. From my side, thank you very much for being with us this afternoon, for sharing your very precious time. I really, really enjoyed being on the event, and I hope you stay safe and see you next year.